Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, whatever time you are watching us or you are watching this live from. If it's in Zambia, it's good evening. The time is 20:05, and this is good time for our discussion on access to information. And basically, as you might have seen from the description, we are discussing the importance of access to information to the media. Basically, this is our second episode on our Ask ATI Initiative project. We are just waiting for the guests to join us for today. But suffice to mention that the Ask ATI Initiative, this particular discussion is brought to you by Ask ATI Initiative under the USAID Open Spaces Zambia project. It is also important to mention that the USAID Open Spaces Zambia project is funded by USAID and implemented by Internews in partnership with FHI 360. Whichever platform you are using to watch us, we are coming live on several pages: the Alliance for Community Action, Mukoni Village, Michael Zulu. We are also coming live on Chanda Medley Chongo's Facebook page. We are also live on the Alliance for Community Action ACA YouTube channel. We are also live on Twitter, that is at Zambia Speaks. So you can share with us some of your experiences if you are coming from a media background in line with the importance of access to information. Let me add one of our guests for today. And this is none other than media expert, Mr. Brian Hatyoka. Thank you so much, sir, for coming through. We have just started the show a few seconds ago. Welcome, sir. How are you? Mr. Hatyoka, in case you're speaking, your microphone is muted. Kindly unmute your microphone so that we are able to hear you. I can't hear you in case you're speaking. Kindly unmute your microphone so that I can hear what you're saying. Good evening, Cole. Thank you so much.
Good evening. How are you coming?
Not so bad. Livingston is getting cold.
Getting cold. That's interesting.
It's funny how Livingston eventually is getting cold. We are used to the hot Livingston, but
that's what we know. Yeah.
You are not so late, comrade, to the show. We always value your contribution to platform and several other background engagements that we engage. Thank you so much for coming through. You're most welcome again.
Thanks.
All right, we were supposed to be joined also by another journalist who is working in the radio industry. His name is Charles from Jukuni Radio, but he's unable to join us. But hopefully, as we go on, he will join us. Comrade, we are discussing the importance of access to information from the media point of view, or to the media. As we start the discussion, Mr. Hatyoka, I would like to understand from a media point of view, what is access to information?
Okay, I hope I'm loud and clear in terms
Very
of sound.
loud and clear, sir.
Yes, so access to information, this is a law that provides right to access to information. And we are talking of information of public interest. So the underlying principle here is that information held by public, state, or private institutions has implications on the public. Hence, citizens should be allowed to access it. And here we are saying access to information law is beneficial to government. Government will actually benefit more to this. And also journalists, they need to access information for their day-to-day stories. Civil society, they need information also for them to plan their interventions, their lobbying initiatives. Researchers, they need information for their assignments and maybe for their investigations. Investors, for them to come to the country, they need to know the prevailing situation. They need information. And ordinary citizens, they need to plan before you leave your home or you want to go somewhere. You need to plan, and you need information. And more importantly, we have now what is known as fake news. Fake news is thriving in an environment where there is too much bureaucracy and information is not given out to the public. The moment you want to hide information to the public, you should know that there are people on the market that are ready to spread what is not true. This is why access to information is important, so that the public can have access to quality information from government bodies. It is also known as freedom of information law in other countries where they have implemented it. Others call it right to know. It enhances transparency and accountability. You know, when you hide information, you should know that, like I said earlier, people will spread what is not true, especially fake news, disinformation, misinformation. All these thrives in an environment where information is kept secret. So really, this law is very important to promote citizens' trust in government, and also leaders. Leaders will be trusted because they are able to dish out information. Look at the CDF. CDF now, we are hearing what is happening, the impact of those projects. Imagine if that information was not given. People would have been thinking that that money is being abused, it's not applied for the intended purpose. But because information is flowing in terms of which projects are being financed in Livingstone, which ward, and what will be the impact, we see that there is that trust. People who trust the government, people who trust the civic leaders. And for politicians, you have a term, and there's time when you go and campaign. Now, if you're not giving out information, people will take it that you are not serious, so they'll vote you out. That's why this bill, really, this law benefits everyone. It enhances democracy, it enhances accountability and good governance. Maybe I can end from there for more.
Well, you have summarized everything, Comrade Hatyoka. But just like they say that it's always very difficult to interview a fellow journalist and or a lawyer, because you always speak in longevity. But let's break down all this summary so that people can begin to understand step by step. We have highlighted what access to information is. You've also delved into um, the access to information bill, which now is being advocated for to be enacted into law. On the other side, Mr. Choka, there is use and or misuse of media, of the word media. Maybe in a simpler term also, let us understand, what is this thing called media?
Okay, thanks very much. Media, we are just talking about platforms that are there to disseminate information to the public. We have what is known as traditional media, where we talk of platforms like radio, television, newspapers. And then we have the new media, or social media, or digital media, like the one we are doing now. This is new media where we are able to communicate through internet, through Facebook, through streaming. This is new media. So these are basically platforms that are meant to disseminate information to the wider audience, where people from one country or maybe the whole world, they're able to follow a discussion like this one. So really, media is just a platform that is supposed to be used by everyone, not just the media themselves, but even the public should be free to use such platforms to give us information so that we can share that information with everyone. So these are basically platforms of mass communication where we disseminate information to many people across the globe.
All right, Comrade Hatyoka. Now let's get into details of the relationship between access to information and the media, and or importance of access to information to the media. Take us through. I mean, you've practiced journalism for many years under print. I recall your recent engagement was working for the Times of Zambia. I'm not very sure whether you've also worked for radio and or TV, Mr. Hatyoka. The time I knew you, you've been working for print.
Yeah, I can say for radio, I've been interviewed on many radio platforms, and also TV people have interviewed me, not necessarily working for them. But I think years back when I did an attachment with National News and Information Services, We used to make programs for radio and for TV, but I'm not really very conversant with the two. But like you have put it, I'm more into print media. I've worked for a long time at Times of Zambia, and also before joining Times of Zambia, I worked for a newspaper that used to be called Business Week. So I'm more of a newspaper person. But coming to the relationship between access to information and the media, I think among many people who need this law are the journalists. The journalists are supposed to expose corruption. They are supposed to expose practices where money is being abused. There is misuse of public funds, for instance. And journalists are supposed to expose such to the public so that the public should have value for their money. They are the taxpayers, they are the people who contribute to all these taxes, and they need to know how their money is being spent. So really, this law is going to benefit more of journalists. And we are talking of investigative journalism now. Journalists are supposed to investigate, analyze the stories, follow the routes. Is it today when we are watching ZNBC, and one of the stories I saw was a helicopter that is being investigated under proceeds of crime, and the helicopter was in Zimbabwe. Now, through the public prosecutions and the Drug Enforcement Commission, they have managed to bring that helicopter to Zambia as part of the cases that are in court. Now, these are stories that journalists should follow using access to information law. They need to know who is the owner of this helicopter. How was it acquired? How did it go to Zimbabwe? We are told there's another helicopter in South Africa which they are investigating, which is supposed to come back to Zambia also and be part of the exhibits on the cases that are before court. Who are these people? Where did they get the helicopters, and how much? And where did the money come from? So many questions. As journalists, we always battle with the questions like who, what, where, when, why, and how. So these are questions that should be answered when we have especially access to information law. When you look at in Africa, there are many countries that have this law, and in other parts of the world. Let me just cite examples of one or two countries in Africa. We are talking of, in Africa, we are talking of South Africa, Lesotho, Eswatini, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Malawi, Angola, Kenya, Morocco, Tunisia, and Angola. These are some of the African countries that have enacted access to information law. Others are Ethiopia, South Sudan, Nigeria, Niger, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Togo, Sierra Leone, Libya, Senegal, and Gambia. Of course, beyond, we have countries like United States. They have always had this law, such that when they are having such investigations, it's easier to tell someone, say, according to the law, we want to get this information. But here in Zambia, you can't do that. There's no law backing you. That's why others say journalism in Zambia is a risk, because certain laws that are there probably are there to regulate you, not really to give you access to information. So journalists in Zambia, they need this law so that they can access information just like other journalists in the US and the countries I mentioned are doing to investigate cases of corruption, investigated even in certain cases like medical issues. Remember in Zambia, there was that story of issues of lack of medicine in the hospitals. Now, which journalists followed that story? All we heard is that Parliament investigated, and then they had the report, and we are all relying on the report that was presented before Parliament. But what about from the journalism point of view? Remember, we are the fourth estate. We offer checks and balances. We should have information even before these other agencies have. But we can't do certain things because we don't have that law that really supports the access to information. So really, this law and the media, they really work together. Journalists need this law. Yes, we are allowed to get stories as at now, but there are certain stories that you can't just get without this law. So journalists will really need this law to deepen their work.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hatyoka, for that elaborate response. Those that are watching us, please, you are free to drop your comments with regards to your experience. If you are coming from a media background, and also if you've had certain experiences of how you think access to information would really be of great importance to the media, please share us through in the comment section, whichever platform you're using to watch us. Like I mentioned earlier, we're coming live on several Facebook pages. We are on YouTube as well, on the Alliance for Community Action. We are on Twitter, also on Zambia Speaks. Um, let's bring it down a bit, Mr. Hatyoka, and I want your honest response. What is your observation currently? And I know you spoke about it generally. I just want you to be so particular, and then where possible, please cite examples. What is your current observation with regards to the practice of journalism in the absence of access to information, and how best do you think, if at all, this bill that we are talking about is enacted into law, the access to information? How well do you think it's going to sort of impact journalism in general?
I think what I can say from my observation is that a number of stories that we see in the media, whether print, electronic, or maybe digital media, social media platforms, we see a lot of half-baked stories. And you can literally see that the journalists really struggled to get information under difficult circumstances. You want to look at this attractive. Of course, I know for journalists, when you have that attractive headline, you are selling your publication, you are selling your media outlet. But at the end of the day, people want to know the ingredients of that particular story. So I find that when I check a lot of media headlines and I want to get to know more about a particular story, you don't get to find more information. And the reason is simple. You find that there were limitations along the way in the process of gathering information. So really this law, if it is put in place, like what we have seen in other countries where they have such a law, it's easier to follow up a story from one place to another. When you are investigating a story, for instance, if you are in Livingston and you are investigating a story, the legs of the story may not just be in Livingston. You find that from Livingston there, other legs may be in Monze, other legs may be in Chipata, Northern Province, and Luapula. So you need to follow all this. So at the end of the day, you find that maybe in Monze, as you are following, maybe it's favorable, you can get information, but you go to Luapula, you find that certain agencies who are supposed to give you information are not willing to give you information. But when there is a law, regardless of where you go, it will be easier for you to get the piece of information that you are looking for. So there will be an equalizer when you have this law. Wherever you want to go, it will be easier to get information. But I think what I've seen also, apart from having this challenge of not having this law, we lack specialization in terms of reporting in Zambia. We have masters of all trades and junks, and just like we are not we are not specialists in anything. We report on politics, we report on crime, on business, any assignment, sports. You are running from one place to another. Really, in other countries where they have this law, people have specialized now to investigate these stories. Maybe you are investigating only in the health sector, others are investigating in politics, in all matters of governance. You have to specialize. We are not specializing as journalists in Zambia, and already, even if the law comes, I don't think we can do much when there's no specialization among us. And also, you find that apart from lack of specialization, media houses, I don't know which one, if there is any, they are not putting more resources into investigative reporting. Like I said, if you are investigating a story in Livingston and that story catches across Lusaka, Wapula Eastern, you need the resources for you to move and follow up such stories. But do we do that? Find that your media institution to start with, it is not providing adequate resources for you to investigate. Now, here is an issue where you have access to information law. The law is there, but do you have the resources as a media house? So I think apart from waiting for this law, can we make our houses in order as media houses, as journalists in Zambia? And what do? Let us put up money for such investigative stories. Also, let us encourage specialization. My journalism background is biased towards business reporting. And what I've found out actually in the area of business reporting is that almost all media houses, we talk of radio, newspaper, TV, they have less component on business report. It's actually, by the way, there's just a small component inside. The rest is politics, crime, and yet what feeds the country is business. So you find that there are no journalists specializing in business. If they are there, just one or two. Other radio stations or TV or maybe newspaper, they don't even have a business journalist. We have very few business journalists in this country. Now, if we can't specialize, who is going to investigate cases that are involving the business community using the access to information law? So in short, my honest view is that we have to put our house in order as media houses, as journalists, so that when the access to information law is there, it will not find us wanting. Otherwise, in the current state, you can have that law. I don't think we are going to do more in terms of investigative reporting, in terms of giving the public the truth about certain stories that are just, half-baked in most cases.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hatyoka. Earlier, you talked about different kinds of media platforms, and you mentioned new media, which is one of which we are using for this discussion. And my interest really is to find out, I mean, in an event where we have this access to information, how sure are we, and possibly what would be your call towards ensuring that there is sanity, both in the new media and traditional media, and I'm talking about utilization of the same access to information.
Thank you. My experience in journalism has shown me that some news sources, some people who give us information, they are doubtful, they are skeptical about certain journalists, and the reason is simple. They entrust you with information, then you go and misquote them. You go and correct what you are not told. You go and exaggerate. Such kind of journalism must come to an end. Otherwise, if we are going to continue with such yellow journalism and you have access to information bill, I don't think the bill is going to add value to our profession. We have to put our house in order. Let me talk about new media. New media, you have professional journalists who have blogs, they have websites, Facebook pages they are running, and you also have ordinary people. They have never gone to any journalism school. They have never bothered to look at media ethics. They don't even know anything in terms of how a story should be written. They don't know what is newsworth. They don't know how to balance a story. They just get a one-sided story and they air it. This is why you hear people being arrested. You hear people being investigated by the police. The reason is simple. They never gave the police the side of their story. You can't talk about a story, especially involving someone who has died, story who has someone who has murdered, allegedly murdered, and all these other stories without getting to the side of the police. A professional journalist must go to the police and get their side of the story, and also balance with the other interested groups before you publish. We professional journalists, we take time. We don't just get a story and publish. We look at the ethics. Is this in line with the profession? Is it what society accepts? We weigh before we publish. But the sad part, especially with new media, is that they are getting anything, whether it's a rumor, is confirmed, not confirmed, they will still air. Now, if you are going to conduct yourself in such a manner, I don't think access to information law will add value to you. It will actually be a disservice, because you may get the truth from this agency and then you go and misrepresent. Next time they want to give you the information. So there is more to do with us in the media to put our house in order. As you are aware, you know that we don't have the self-media regulation body. We have been talking, going forward, backwards in terms of having the Media Ethics Council. Of course, we were told that this matter is still being actively being pushed. I think we need the Media Ethics Council, like other countries which have, so that those who are not following media ethics can be answerable, can be summoned by this body. We have a challenge where people who are not even journalists are practicing journalism. They are busy denting the images of other people, posting fake news. They write anything without following any standard. We can't continue doing such things. For other professions like public relations and communication, they have now what they call Zambia Institute of Public Relations and Communication Act number 11 of 2022, where all practitioners are regulated, their ethics are checked. Journalists must also follow that route so that they can assure the public that even if they post on online media, new media, or digital media, whatever they will post will be something that is credible, reliable, trustworthy, or something that everybody will be happy. Not the way the things are now. We really don't mean well. And the sad part also is that the traditional media, they are competing with new media. So we find that some of the radio stations or maybe TV, they will pick something that is not verified from the new media, from social media, and air such a story. At the end of the day, you'll be summoned for airing what is not verified. So we have a problem. We need regulation, self-regulation. Yes, I agree, and I've been pushing through Media Liaison Committee and other colleagues that are pushing. We have been talking to say, can we regulate ourselves? We have a disaster in our midst. If you are a doctor and you are not trained, you can't go to UTH and start administering medicine, checking patients. They can't allow you. Teachers also, they get licenses now. You can't teach if you are not regulated by Teaching Service Commission and Teaching Council of Zambia. So what we are saying is that even the journalists, can we regulate ourselves? Can we assure the public that we can handle information that we are going to get through access to information? We can handle that information professionally, weigh it, check the ethics, balance it, and make sure that by the time we disseminate, that information will be done professionally and it will be acceptable by the masses that we are targeting.
Thanks so much, Comrade. Let me get a bit personal. I mean, I mentioned also in my preamble that you have been practicing journalism for quite many years. Are there certain situations where you felt you were not able to do a certain story because you never had information, or possibly you were blocked by the powers that be in order for you to pursue that story?
In journalism, we have such stories, many of them. You know, the issue which is sometimes limiting to the life of a journalist or the professional part of a journalist is that where they are working, they have editorial policies. And you find that these same editorial policies, they will guide you which stories you are supposed to pursue, which stories you are not supposed to pursue. So yes, I have had cases where I did a very good story. I balanced, I did it professionally, I verified, I made sure that both sides were quoted. I did my due diligence and it was professionally done. But I was told, no, this can't run. You know, you get frustrated as a journalist, especially after you've done your part. I thought, since I did all the due diligence and I made sure that all the ingredients were there, they should have allowed me to have that story run, but I wasn't, because there were other interests. We find that sometimes some interested stakeholders may not want certain stories to run. It happens. Anyone who has practiced journalism for a long time, you know that sometimes your editorial policy may work against certain issues of your profession. Certain things you like, you may not report them because probably your editorial policy is against such. So there are these internal frustrations in the life of a journalist, but really that should not put you down. You are a journalist. You can work for this media house, tomorrow work for another media house. So don't limit yourself to a level where you find restrictions and then you say, now I'll give up. No. Other media houses could have run some story that was not run elsewhere. But again, as a professional, you want to only write for your media house. You don't want to say, okay, this story has been rejected, let me take to another station. It's like you are betraying your station. So these are frustrations that are there. In every profession, there are frustrations. But I think for me, the major frustration is editorial policy sometimes, which seems to restrict journalists to report in line with the station's editorial policy. I think we should look forward to a day where journalists will own stations and come up with better editorial policies, which will not have these vested interests, trying to stop you from doing your work. So in short, yes, I have had such experiences. And even as I'm talking to you now, I even remember the story that was dropped, and I did it a good story. I did all my best, but it was dropped. Of course, I've forgiven them, but yes, it is there.
All right, Mr. Hatyoka. One of the issues that we have noticed, I mean, you may also agree, depending on the depending on the situation in where you are. The CDF policy is one of the much talked about issue. Among several other policies, social cash transfer. We also know now that the NAPSA 20% partial withdrawal is also one of the issues that are being talked about. And my observation at personal level is that there still seems to be lack of information amongst especially possible beneficiaries of these same policies, to mention just three, but there are several other issues. Do you think that media has not done its background check? And possibly, would you blame that because of lack of access to information law in Zambia? For failure to inform people on CDF, the NAPSA 20% withdrawal, as well as uh, which other policy did I talk about? The um, this one that is being run by the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services. But in a nutshell,
Social cash transfer.
social cash transfer. Thank you.
Yes.
Do you think media has not done its background role because of access to information?
This one, I will take you back to what I said earlier on. There is lack of specialization in the media. When you want to become a journalist, you think you can write on sports, you can write on business, you can write on health. It's like there's just an assignment. You hear, oh, today there's an assignment, so you go. Kwaso kuli assignment waenda, and you just go, without having that in mind to say, okay, at some point you are supposed to specialize. So the biggest problem in the media is that we lack specialization. There are yes who are specialized, who can give an in-depth reporting on CDF, NAPSA 20%, social cash transfer. But there are few. We need more journalists to specialize. And unless we specialize as journalists, we are going to be giving a disservice to the public. We are going to be covering stories at an event. We just quote, he said, and there will be no in-depth analysis of such stories. So really, for me, I blame this lack of specialization on the part of journalists. This is why even the 20% withdraw. If you look at who was talking more, it's the people, the public themselves. It's social media where the journalists were quiet. Journalists were reporting on this 20% withdraw. When NAPSA gave an update to say, okay, we have released so much billion kwacha out of this, so are women, these are men. Such official statements are the ones journalists were reporting. Meaning the day that NAPSA will not speak, journalists will not write anything on 20% withdraw. And the reason is simple. You don't understand issues of investments to do with pensions.
Because also maybe there is no information.
Yes, there's no information, yes. But are we interested? Have we tried to go and get information? Because that information may not really need access to information law. No. It's a public thing now that there's this 20% people are accessing. So we don't need access to information. We can walk to NAPSA, go to the head of public relations office unit there, or even the CEO, and ask him, okay, last time you told us that you had released so much billion. As at now, after 2 weeks of that statement, what is the latest status? Are we still having people failing to access? Or how many have different analyses? For instance, because we are told some people had different analyses on the system, so they couldn't access. What are the challenges of those who are not failing to access? And what are you doing to address the challenges? Are we going to ask these questions? Or we are waiting for access to information law? We should not wait for access to information law for us to do our work. Journalism work can still be done in the absence of the law. What we are saying with this law, it is going to add value to what we are already doing. It is going to help us, especially in cases where information is very difficult. When you are writing a press query to organization B, and organization B tells we will respond to you after 1 week. 1 week, a story cannot wait for 1 week. We have deadlines every day in the media. So we need those stories to be given, responses to be given promptly. So that's where probably the access to information law will come in to help in the release of information. But again, that doesn't mean we can't work. We can still work, and we have been working. Even in the absence of this law, journalists can still go to NAPSA and get information. CDF, we have over 100 councils in this country. So I don't think journalists can tell me, no, we are having difficulties in accessing this council. No. If you are having difficulties in accessing the city councils or these councils that are in towns, you can look for a rural council. Because that money which was sent for CDF was not sent to say, okay, this council will be given, this one won't be given. They gave that money across the country. So wherever journalists are, there's a council nearby. Why don't we go and get information to look at how many projects have been given out, which projects are going to affect people living with disabilities, which projects are going to benefit the school-going children. Social cash transfer is also another important project. We are going to look at which area was supported, which one was not supported, what challenges, and those who got the support, how are they improving in their day-to-day activities. These are things we can report. But if you are not specializing in these areas, it will be very difficult for you to make a story, for you to write something about these same stories.
Thanks so much, Mr. Choka. Our dear viewers, in case you have a contribution, please feel free to drop your contributions. We're discussing the importance of access to information to the media. What is your experience when it comes to access to information, especially if you are others are citizen journalists? Please let us know of your experience. Mr. Choka, do you think access to information now is going to sort of challenge issues of bureaucracy? Because we understand at the moment there are a lot of references here and there. Instead of is it because some officials have not been sort of capacitated on what to say, or they do not have they lack access to information even in their respective offices? Because you find that you want to speak, maybe let's say to even a district health director, for example, may not give you the information that you need. That particular person will refer you to the ministry responsible. Do you think that if we had such, if we had access to information, such would sort of reduce going forward?
Exactly. When we have this law, such cases will reduce. You are going to get stories from Livingston. You are not going to be referred to Lusaka to say, no, we can't respond here, because it will be legal. It will be legally binding for the authorities in Livingston to give us what we need. So authorities in Lusaka to give us what we need. So there will be nothing. When people are telling, we can't answer, we want you to get information from the other. Somehow they will tell you, okay, by protocol, we're not supposed to answer this and that. But when there is a law, like when the police come to your house to search something, they come with a search warrant. Are you going to say, no, I'm not the landlord, let me call the landlord? No. The police will search there and then with their search warrant. Why? Because the law allows them. So when you have access to information law, there will be nothing like, let me call my boss, let me do this. Once that letter is written to you as an agency or an institution to give that information they are requesting, that person will be compelled to release that information. Because if you don't release, like what happens in other countries where someone is asked for a certain piece of information and then they don't release, it can be a court matter. Someone can sue you for refusing to disclose what you are supposed to disclose. Of course, there are other laws like maybe defense, like state security. Information that is in such category cannot be released. But on the usage of public funds in general, surely once someone has been asked, how much do you spend, how much is yet to be spent, which are the beneficiaries, if someone is failing to release such, that person is supposed to be answerable even in court, because that will be legally binding. But as at now, nothing is binding. So they will keep on referring you to another office in Lusaka, which is happening. Others will tell you, we'll respond to you after 1 week. After 1 week, they will even forget that they promised that they were going to respond. They will even start asking you, so what are you asking? Oh, so can you put up a press query? So in terms of the current situation, it really is quite tricky for journalists to get information. They are lucky if they have people who can give them information, but on average, majority would rather defer that, or maybe just tell them, no, I can't answer. Sorry, I can't talk to you. So you find that a journalist has to give up even on a good story.
Thank you so much, comrade, once again. Our dear viewers, you are free to contribute on this conversation. Let us know what your experience is with regards to access to information. Now, this particular discussion is brought to you by the Ask Access to Information or Ask ATI Information Initiative under the USAID Open Spaces Zambia project. The USAID Open Spaces Zambia project is funded by USAID and implemented by Internews in partnership with FHI 360. And we're coming live on different Facebook platforms as well as the YouTube channel of the Alliance for Community Action and on Twitter on Zambia Speaks. Please, Zambia Asks rather. Please, you are free to drop your comment and your contribution. Let us know what your experience is, especially if you've had certain situations where you were denied information because of uh, what and what example. Please, we'll be so glad to hear your examples also, even as we are slowly almost winding up for this discussion. Mr. Choka, how far have discussions, especially from the media, and I'm talking about advocacy towards enacting this bill into law now? I mean, this has been ongoing. We understand that some of us were not even born yet when activism around the enactment of this bill into law started. Um, Currently, are we seeing the Zambian media being interested in terms of advocating for this bill being enacted?
Thank you. I think on average, if you were to ask journalists, just 10 of them, what have you done to this access to information bill? Are you really doing something? And you may find that actually a lot of journalists are okay with the current status quo. It's just some media bodies, of course, that have been pushing. It's just some NGOs, civil society. The actual journalist who is supposed to benefit even more is not proactive. And the reason is simple. I've been involved in the Zambian media for a long time in professional media bodies. And what I've discovered, by the way, I'm Lusaka Press Club Vice Chairperson. What I've discovered is that journalists are very good when it comes to reporting other professions or other people or interests of others, not themselves. Journalists, they rarely sit down to analyze their profession as journalists, to plan for their profession, to plan for access to information. They would rather allow another person to do it. Now, if another person is going to do it for you, are you sure they are going to put up a law that will favor you? For me, that is what we need to assess ourselves, really, if what we are doing is right. At the moment, we are talking of media bodies having different directions. We are not united. Is it recently where there was another media body by the media owners saying, us, we want to pull this direction? Then there was another media body led by Media Liaison Committee, which sat at Golden Peacock and resolved that we need to go this way. So now, why should we be divided? Why? The first thing for me, journalists, media houses must be united. Let us come together. Let us know that we are one. We are not trained. When you go to a college or university, they don't train you to be a private media journalist or public media journalist. They train you to be a journalist regardless of where you will be working, whether public or private. Meaning, we are one family. We have to sit down, agree that we need access to information bill, and then imagine if all of us agree today that we need this law and walk to the Ministry of Information and Media. Government is going to act. The challenge is that you find that government receives this petition from this NGO A, then civil society B goes also to give another petition. Another organization C goes and says, no, actually, we don't even need access to information law. So now government is weighing the stakeholders' input. Others are saying we need it. Others are saying we don't need it. I think there was even a time when the PS alluded to that fact to say we received diverse views. Others were not comfortable with the provisions of the same access to information. So we want to do more consultations. They will talk about more consultations when we are not united. But when we are united, we have one voice, we have one representative. It will be easier to convince government that this bill is urgent. It has been on the table for the last 20 years. And that last 20 years is just what most people are saying. Other old journalists will tell you, actually, over the last 30 to 40 years, this debate has been there. And now we are talking of over 40 years. We are still talking. And the reason is simple, we are divided. Can we be united? This issue of because this funder is giving me money, let me oppose my colleagues, it is not helping. Have you seen lawyers fighting? Lawyers don't fight. Have you seen engineers fighting? They don't. Have you seen doctors, nurses fighting? They don't. Have you seen journalists fighting? Yes, I have seen them, because they are not pulling in the same directions. We have a lot of professional media bodies that have got different agendas, different sponsors, and they are not pulling together. I think we have to put together. For me, we have to regulate ourselves first. Once we do that, then we can say, what else do we need? We need access to information. Can we go to the ministry, all of us? And when we go to the ministry, we are going to tell the Ministry of Information and Media that we are not representing 10 journalists. We are representing all the journalists across Zambia. And once we do that, I think government is going to take us very seriously as journalists.
All right, Mr. Hatyoka, what would you have loved to be had you had the authority, for example? I mean, the question I'm trying to find out from you is that how soon do you think the media needs this access to information law?
The media need access to information law as soon as yesterday. This law has actually delayed. I remember when I was president of Livingston Press Club up to from 2012 to 2019, that is one of the items we were pushing. And from that time to date, we are still pushing. So really, this is something that we have talked about in the past. We are still talking about today. It has to be enacted into law. We have talked. We have looked at all the fears that government has, fears that maybe media may have, and we have analyzed all these things. At the end of the day, it should be enacted. I will tell you, in 2018, I visited the United States, place where they call Freedom House. In the United States, there's a place called Freedom House, and Freedom House, they assess, they evaluate the freedoms around the world in terms of press freedom, political freedoms. They analyze, they assess how each country is faring. And for Zambia, shockingly, I was taken through the map and I was told, come and see where Zambia is. And when we went to Zambia, we were told that Zambia is the partially free. Then other countries which have access to information law or freedom of information, like United States and the other ones I mentioned in Africa, those, they were actually labeled free, meaning people are free to talk. There's press freedom, there's media freedom. People are free to write, to analyze, to question, to investigate. But in Zambia, we are told we are partly free, meaning you are not very free. And I asked the reason, why are we labeled partly free? And the answer they gave me was that because you don't have the law on access to information, whatever we are doing, whatever journalism we are doing, is journalism by chance. It's not backed by law, like access to information. So you need this law so that you can, so that status can change at Freedom House, and we should be labeled free. So I can't be surprised that even now, 2023, if you go to Freedom House and ask for Zambia's freedom in terms of media freedom, you will still find that we are partly free, or we are actually not free. Even with the good environment that the current government has given, those people who are analyzing, they will still say, no, you are not free. You don't have access to information. So when we have this law, it means we are going to be in green. Green is usually put to say a country is free. But where they put red and these other colors, then you know that you need to work on your press freedom. And one of the things you can do to enhance press freedom is to have access to information law. So this law should have come as of yesterday when we talked about it. Journalists need this law, and not only journalists, government also needs this law so that they can get information in terms of what the public is saying, what the public is trying to suggest on the projects that government is rolling out, and also civil society for monitoring, checks and balance. They need information, and many other stakeholders, investors, researchers. Like I said, everyone needs information, but without this law, it's a struggle to get what you want. You have to push. Sometimes you get, sometimes you won't get.
Thanks so much, Mr. Choka. Why do you think other stakeholders should also join on board to call or advocate for the enactment of this law? this bill into law. I know you've touched about that this law, if enacted, I mean, it will not only benefit the media. Why do you think it is so important that the continued advocacy around the enactment of this bill should not tire stakeholders, including the media, Mr. Choka?
From what politicians normally say, they will tell you that, especially those in government, they'll tell you we are listening government. Meaning they want you to go and convince them, give them numbers, give them situations to say, if you give us this law, this is what will happen. Now, in an event where you keep quiet, you give up on this battle, you stop pushing government. You should know that government is not going to do anything because they don't feel compelled to enact it. So stakeholders must continue engaging government, continue giving reasons to government why this law must be put in place. Without stakeholders coming on board, there will be no access to information. We are talking of 20 years having passed, 40 years having passed. Next time we'll be talking of 60 years passing without it, as long as stakeholders are quiet. So the stakeholders should keep on engaging government and also giving proposals to say, when we have this law, we are going to be responsible. For us as journalists, we can engage government that we will be responsible for the information we will get. Probably government is fearing that when we get information, we'll misuse, we'll misquote. So that's why maybe they are not giving. That is just an assumption. But the point is, we have to show government that we are responsible. We can manage information when we are given, and it will be a win-win situation. Government will benefit, the stakeholders will benefit. For members of parliament, like I said earlier on, after 5 years, there is an election. So how are they going to campaign when they have never been giving information to the wards, to the constituencies? People didn't have information. The MP was just staying in Lusaka for the whole 5-year period. They will vote you out. You need to go and give information to the people on the ground so that they know what you are doing as an area member of parliament. And therefore, it means members of parliament must also support access to information bill so that it helps them to get those jobs politically. We talk of civil society, we already said they need it. They need to continue pushing. MPs should continue pushing. NGOs should continue pushing. All these stakeholders, the media, the journalists themselves, apart from professional media bodies that are pushing, journalists as an individual, can we push? Can you push as a journalist? We journalists, you find that in most cases, some of the assignments, we are privileged to meet the Minister of Information, the PS of Information, and these senior government officials. When you have tea, when it is time to relax, you can even ask for PS. I think I'm a concerned journalist as an individual. What is happening to this law? Where are we? Probably the PS may even tell you, instead of telling you, let me have a media briefing, let me respond to many journalists. The PS may even announce something that he probably didn't want to announce. But if we are going to keep quiet and hoping that the bill will just drop and everybody just benefit, these are some of the impossibilities that we may have along the way.
Hatyoka, may I take that as your concluding remarks, or you wanted to add in a nutshell as we officially now conclude this discussion?
No, otherwise, thank you just for the opportunity. Thanks very much. Yes, I no longer practice journalism, but I'm passionate about journalism because that is what I've been doing for over 18 years. So we have to push for this media access to information bill. The bill is not going to benefit only us, it will benefit the entire nation. Just like our ordinary stories. When we write stories, those stories are not for media houses. They are for the public to make informed decisions. So we hope we'll continue engaging civil society, we'll continue engaging the government, the MPs, all the stakeholders. Let's keep on talking. This bill is not something that is going to bring problems to this country. It is going actually to promote citizens' trust in government. It is going to promote citizens' trust in leaders. The bill is going to promote efficiency in the use of public resources. And citizens are going to be happy at the end of the day that whatever is happening, they are able to get the information that they need. So let's keep on pushing as journalists, as also professional media bodies and other stakeholders that we have mentioned.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hatyoka, and also I would want to appreciate those of you that have followed us from the start of this conversation. Today we are discussing the importance of access to information to the media. In our first episode, we did look at the importance of access to information to civil society organizations, and in particular, the role of freedom of expression to social accountability. Remember that this is the second episode out of the several others that are yet to come. We have these conversations every Friday at 20 hours. Yesterday, we weren't able to have it, but we will sustain the Fridays ones. Every Friday at 20 hours once again. And I want to make it clear once again that these conversations are brought to you by the Ask ATI Initiative under the USAID Open Spaces Zambia project. Now, the USAID Open Spaces Zambia project is funded by USAID and implemented by Internews in partnership with FHI 360. We're coming live on several Facebook pages to mention Chanda Medley Chongo, the Alliance for Community Action, Mukuni Village, Michael Zulu, live on the Alliance for Community Action YouTube channel, as well as the Twitter account. My guest was media expert Brian Hatyoka. Thank you so much, comrade, once again. And we look forward really to engaging you on several other conversations around your expertise. We appreciate your input, sir.
Welcome, comrades. Let's continue working together. I'm available.
Right. On behalf of Chanda Chongo, who has been also a technician of the day in the background, we say a lovely night to you, and let's meet next Friday at 20 to this particular time when we come with another episode. Bye for now.
Bye.